Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Guys Who Stare at Stats. I'm Cade Kennedy alongside Connor Gray, and Connor, we have a lot to get to today. College baseball, college softball, NHL, NBA, a whole bunch of fun stuff going on today. And as always, how are you doing today?
Doing all right. Obviously, we're just kind of excited to see how the NBA is going to turn out. Also, just really interesting. We're not seeing LeBron back pretty much back here. Another season without him back here, and also pretty much we get to see how pretty much how people will see how Golden State will do without having to rely on Kevin Durant for winning two of their three, even though they really didn't need him for that.
Yeah.
More than likely. But obviously, Boston's finally back.
Yep. Interesting to see the Celtics there.
So, obviously, a.k.a. spoiler, not really a spoiler. But then, obviously, we're down to the conference finals for NHL.
Yep.
And we'll get to see how that turns out.
Yeah, that will be fun.
Oh, the Western Conference going to be a lot of goals.
Probably.
Lots of goals.
Lots of things going on in that series. So without further ado, let's just get right into it, starting with recapping the NBA, picking up from where we were on Thursday, Golden State and Dallas, Game 5 of that series. And what a shocker, Golden State got the win like we thought it would. Dallas just kind of, I don't know how to feel about this game because they tried, they honest to goodness tried. It's just that's the difference level. They tried in the second half. They made a run towards the end of the third quarter. First half was all Golden State. Dallas really couldn't get anything going. They were able to shoot the three well. They shot 40% from three. They were able to play well. But at the end of the day, that's just the difference between a championship caliber team and a team that kind of just exceeded expectations and no one really expected to be.
I would actually say they were pretty much even throughout that whole. It's that second quarter that really killed them. They ended up going down 14 points.
Yeah, I mean that was
on that one.
That was the big death blow, really.
Otherwise, Dallas was pretty much in that game. They just got behind way too much.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It was simple mistakes that could have been fixed, weird offensive cues that I don't really know what we were trying to do, but overall, still a successful season for Dallas. They will be back at some point, I think. But for Golden State, they got to win. They got to move on. Steph Curry gets to win Western Conference Finals MVP. So shout out to him winning that. So he finally won a blank Finals MVP award. Now he's got to win an actual Finals MVP. That's the big stuff going on today. On Twitter, Kevin Durant was calling people out, saying that, okay, well, Steph Curry's got to prove he's legit now, not, dealing with me being the guy. I was like, okay, this is going to be fun.
It's like, you the guy? Really?
Yes, Kevin Durant is the guy.
Wow.
I guess.
This man,
Slim Reaper.
Wow, this man has this man's ego.
This man created burner accounts to trash talk 14-year-olds. Let's not act like he's the thickest skinned guy in the world.
No, just like, but I mean, like, this man really has the gall to talk the way.
Yes, he does.
I'm sorry, but Katie, you're not that good. You're not as good as you think you are.
He's undefeated on Twitter. I'll say that. That's about it. He's got very interesting tweets if you ever look into that history there. But moving on to Game 6 of what happened in the Eastern Conference Finals, we thought Boston would get an opportunity to close them out. The Celtics came out of the gate and did exactly what you're not supposed to do. Start the game out cold. Miami plays well. Boston able to battle their way back into it late, but not good enough. Miami held on 111-103. Jimmy Butler dropping 47 points, having the game of his life, basically. Whatever he needed to do, he got it done.
But also, Jason Tatum just kind of just only shooting 12.
Yeah, only shooting 12 times, but still getting 30 points, 9 to 12 shooting. A very efficient night for him. The main thing was Boston not being able to shoot the three, turning it over a lot. Miami turned it over a lot as well. What we pretty much have gotten used to in this series, where neither team really plays lights out, but they play good enough to outlast the other one.
Pretty much. But overall, it wasn't as just really one of those things where it's just like Celtics could have played much better ball. Instead, they just didn't really score when you needed them to. Plus, Tatum only shooting the ball 12 times. Either he just could not shoot the ball at all, or like 12 times. Obviously, he still got 30.
Yeah.
But even then, it's like you got to shoot more than that, especially when you're trying to close out a series.
I mean, give some credit to Miami's defense there. They were able to make him pretty much pass the ball to someone else. That was their game plan. We got to make Jason Tatum not the guy. And when he was able to score, you saw what Jason Tatum can do. But they made him pass the ball to give it to someone like Marcus Smart or Al Horford or someone else who's still a weapon but not as big of a heavy hitter, I guess you could say. But moving on to what happened in Game 7, my goodness, this was a struggle bus of a game for Miami fans in the first quarter. Start out, you have all this energy, this amazing crowd, ready to go, and you're down 15 and all the air's out of the building. You're down 15 at the end of the first quarter. You're slowly able to get back into the game. You go on a big run at the end of the second quarter. You nearly tie it going into halftime.
Yeah, they'd go down by 6, and then they didn't start that third quarter very well.
They had a poor start to the third quarter. They're able to regroup, come back. You're still only trailing by just 7. You can do this if you're Miami. This is something they've been done all year. And the fourth quarter, man, it happened. The first half of it, Miami just goes on one of the coldest streaks I've ever seen. You just go 5 minutes nearly without scoring, but they're still in the game, which was the crazy part. In an NBA Eastern Conference Final, if you don't score for 5 minutes, you should be obliterated off the face of the earth, and that team goes on like a 15-0 run. But they were able to somehow stay alive. They make a rally late. Boston nearly choked this game away. I mean, it was razor thin at the end. Jimmy Butler gets a opportunity to take the lead, gets Al Horford to bite on a pump fake, decides to shoot the 3 and not drive to the rim to tie it.
Yeah.
Which is the controversial decision.
But I don't blame him for going for the lead.
Yeah, I don't blame him going for the kill either, because I think if he makes that, Boston just folds, and that's the end of the game.
Yeah.
I think how that works.
Though I did say, after when I saw that, I was like, well, okay, he probably could have went for went and got 2 to tie it, and maybe Boston doesn't do anything. Maybe they can still hold them off from really scoring, and maybe take 1 to go down and make a basket and win the game. But instead, he tried to play hero, which, let's be real, anyone in that situation, anyone that's as good as Jimmy Butler is going to try to take the 3.
Having the games he's had, that's not the worst guy. I mean, he had 35 points, 13 for 24 shooting. That's the one guy you want shooting the ball like that.
Yeah. Though some would say, I forget his name, that made the 3 that put them within.
Yeah, Max Strus.
You give it to Max Strus because he hit that 3 that put them within 2. Mm-hmm. But Max Strus wasn't down the floor yet.
Yeah, he wasn't down the floor yet, and that was his first 3 he had made in a long time.
Yeah, so it's like, that's one of those things where Butler should have taken the shot regardless. Even though whether you thought it was a 2 or a 3, he should have shot a 2 or 3. More likely, he drives in, makes 2, ties the game.
Yeah.
That's probably the best thing that could have happened with that situation. But if anyone's going to blame Butler for taking a chance, it's like, you're out of your mind, because it's like, you take that chance.
No, if you blame anyone, you blame a Victor Oladipo or a Kyle Lowry who played not the best in the world. Lowry calling a timeout way too early, which gave Miami like 1 timeout for the final 4 or 5 minutes of the game.
And also Kyle Lowry not playing most of that game very well, but then he started making shots late in the game. But it's like, he makes shots early in the game, they probably aren't in that position.
Yes. It's one of those. There are a lot of things to blame for Miami, why they lost this Game 7. Jimmy Butler's not that reason.
But it's a team game, so in the end of the day, the team ended up losing the game. It's not really one single individual's fault. It goes from just the players, coaches, and even management for some aspects.
Yeah.
But once again, Miami just needs to take that next step to get them where they need to go.
Yes.
And obviously, we don't know how it's going to go in the offseason for them, because they'll have players up for contracts, or hopefully they can get the players that they currently have under contract, that especially a lot of them are young, they can develop them into be better players.
Yeah, we'll get into the wildness that is NBA free agency which some could argue is better than the playoffs in terms of the most random things in the world happening that you never expect to ever happen. Same thing with the NBA draft and all the draft day trades that happen there. But so far, if you're liking this podcast, I guess you could say is the best word for it, be sure to give us a follow here on Twitch. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, whether that be NWTV7 or The Guys Who Stare at Stats. Give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, anywhere like that. Give us a follow and search NWTV7 and we'll be there. Also, link in the description for our newest video we got done. Uploaded it yesterday, was able to come in here at 9:30 at night after watching Top Gun 2. So came in here, watched that good movie. Good movie, I will say that about it. But got in here, got a little super regional softball recap done on that. So click that link there in Twitch chat, and that'll take you to the video. You can watch it, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and all that great stuff. But looking at the NHL, we got a lot to talk about. A little bit of controversy, a little bit of pizzazz, a little bit of, my goodness, what happened last night. Bad things, if you're a Carolina fan. Trigger warning, Carolina fans. Bad things happen. But starting with another red team in danger, Calgary down 3-1 to your arch rival in Edmonton. It's a 4-4 game, and Calgary takes the lead. Except they didn't take the lead because they kicked the puck into the net as it was already going into the net. And Edmonton gets to go to overtime, and Connor McDavid does Connor McDavid things and wins the game for him.
Of course.
So the Oilers get a 5-4 win. Calgary fans have still not stopped talking about this goal. I don't blame them. It's a really dumb decision where the player's just moving his foot and doesn't even realize he kicked it. But because he moved his foot a certain amount of feet, that is considered a natural kicking motion.
In fact, well, it's like it shouldn't have been considered a natural kicking motion, but but obviously in the eyes of the refs and the instant replay crew, they're going to be like, well, you helped advance the puck with your foot, therefore we'll wave it off. The thing is, any team's going to get hit with this. They've been hit with it before. Obviously, not everyone's happy, but obviously that shouldn't have been a decider for this game. More likely, it should have gone to Game 6. Instead, it ended up not happening, and Edmonton ended up winning in overtime. But obviously, that's where you got to tell Calgary, it's like, well, you got to strap in and get that first goal for overtime to win. Instead, Calgary didn't do that.
Yeah, they were not able to capitalize, and the Oilers were able to. And that's why Edmonton is in the Western Conference Finals for the first time since 2006.
Good Lord, that's
it's been a long time.
Almost 20 years.
Yeah, and then Avs Blues, big game 6 in St. Louis. St. Louis started off well. Everything's going well. You know it's going well when you get a goal right before the end of the first period. That is true. You can't trust people named Connor. That is absolutely correct, Mike and Perkins. But the Blues get off to a good start. They win the first period. They get a 1-0 lead. Colorado able to tie it. Blues get a 2-1 lead. And then they did the one thing the Blues absolutely could not do.
Blow it.
They played not to lose. And when you play not to lose against a team that literally just needs to win one game and move on,
it's like,
what a shocker. Colorado ties the game, and St. Louis continues to play not to lose even further. Colorado gets more and more aggressive, and they get a winning goal from Darren Helm with 6 seconds left to send Colorado to the playoffs. I'm not even mad. I'm just sad that of all the endings, that was the one St. Louis got.
Well, and also it's one of the things that you have to realize when you're up on a team, you got to play more more aggressive than they do. Because Colorado, it's like they're not necessarily going to play very aggressive because, like, well, we got to win one game, that's it. But obviously, if you send it to Game 7, then they're gonna go back to being very aggressive because you just even the series. But Colorado's not necessarily gonna. Most of that game wasn't playing the most aggressive because, like, okay, we just got to make sure we can either tie it up or get a goal to get ahead. Instead, St. Louis, I think, panicked after taking the lead. Was like, okay, we'll just protect this lead. It's like, score. Well,
so the thing that bothers me is they were playing aggressive throughout the second period. It was the second the third period started and Colorado made a few changes to get a little bit more of an edge. started playing a bit more aggressive. The second Colorado started to, you kind of saw the reality kick in of, oh, we need to tie this game. St. Louis switched from being the aggressor to being just preyed upon. And the second the game got tied, you just kind of felt oh, here we go again.
Well, that's what I mean. St. Louis.
Yeah, that's what.
Should have been trying to be more defensive. They should have been just as aggressive going at them. Should have tried to rough Colorado up because Colorado's desperate for a goal. If you rough them up, it'll mess with the flow.
Yeah, but the worst part is I have complained about Ville Husso a bit on this show. He played phenomenal. He played an absolute.
He owned your franchise.
He played as good of a game as he could have, but my goodness, the Blues defense just absolutely decided not to help him in that third period, and he was getting. It was basically Ville Husso versus the entire Colorado Avalanche organization.
The Colorado Avalanche just own let's see.
I mean, they just absolutely blitzed
who was
him.
the player that hit your goalie? Was it?
That was Kadri.
Kadri pretty much ended up getting a lot of goals for Avalanche throughout the series.
Throughout the series, yeah, and
he
of
pretty
course
much owned you guys, even though that wasn't his fault for going into Bennington.
I mean, it was one of those things where once that entire sequence happened, you knew, okay, if the Blues win Game 3, they have a chance to make this a turning point in the entire series where it's, okay, time to rally around our backup goalie and let's go out here and absolutely destroy some people. But instead, the Avs got all the momentum from it, got the win in Game 3, and that's the way the series went.
Yep.
But congrats to Colorado. I hope they get swept by Edmonton and get murdered, but
more likely that series
murdered as in roughed up, not actually murdered. I gotta clarify that for Twitch TOS.
Like that series I believe for Western Conference is going to be. Woo, that's going to be...
Yeah, it is going to be an absolutely fun series for sure. Not a lot of fun happening to Carolina, though. We got to talk about this, starting with Game 6. Things went about as well as we thought they would for Game 6, where the Rangers just absolutely beat up Carolina. That's what happens when Carolina goes on the road. 5-2, Rangers get the win over the Canes. I mean... you get a lot of bad stuff happening when your goalie goes down for Carolina with injuries. That is never a good sign. And unfortunately, that continued to plague them into Game 7. Rangers come out of the gate just striking immediately, getting up 2-0 and then 3-0 at the end of the second period.
They would end up getting 3 goals in the third period.
Yeah, then 4-0, 16 minutes left in your season, and you got to score 5 goals to win the series. Or 4 to go to overtime, which it can be done.
It can be done.
But it is ridiculously difficult. Carolina tried, but the Rangers just turned it into trading goals with them.
Carolina finally lost at home.
6-2. Carolina lost at home. The one game they cannot afford to lose at home, they lost at home.
Yep.
Which means they will finish with a 7-1 home record and still get bounced in the second round.
Yep.
My goodness. Which leads us to what we will get into starting tonight. 7 o'clock, TNT, the Western Conference Final in Denver. Edmonton taking on Colorado. This will be fun. Avs are favored in this one. I will be rooting very hard against them for a long time. But I think Colorado does win the game. I would like to see Edmonton win, but Colorado is going to make this a shootout, which Edmonton is okay with.
Edmonton can
compete with that. I think they have they'll have the best player, obviously, Connor McDavid. But I think the Avs just a little bit too much for him at home.
I think one, like we're both saying, it's going to probably be a high scoring shootout for a hockey game. But I think Colorado just edges out Edmonton.
Yeah, I do want to say a over-under of 7 in this one.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Vegas expecting high scoring.
Yeah, a lot of high scoring in this one. And then,
I probably would take the over on that.
Probably. And then Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, Tampa Bay, New York, the Eastern Conference Final in Madison Square Garden. One of my favorite hockey traditions, Tampa Bay versus insert New York team here in the Eastern Conference Final. It's the Islanders for 2 years now. The Rangers get a crack at them. Can it be different? Vegas says no. Tampa Bay is favored in this game, and I don't blame them. I think Tampa Bay is starting to get back into gear where we expect them to be. Yes, they're still without their starting center in Braden Point, but I don't think that really means anything with how deep Tampa still is. I got Tampa Bay winning Game 1.
I would say don't. It's like the way New York has played most of these playoffs. It's like don't underestimate them.
Yeah, this will be a long series.
As much as I hate New York, the Islanders I'm cool with, even though obviously they're still an Eastern Conference rival. I don't like the Rangers. I don't like the Rangers more. So as much as I would constantly go against the Rangers, don't be surprised. I'm not going to be surprised if New York just steals Game 1 right from the Lightning.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I have Lightning winning this. Not Lightning. I have Rangers winning this one.
All right.
And I expect Rangers possibly giving Lightning a big surprise.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it happening. I think it's going to be an amazing goalie showdown with Vasilevsky versus Shesterkin. That is going to be some fun to see in the net. They're going to be a lot of 1-0s, 2-1 type games, it feels like, coming out of this.
More than likely, and I think that would probably favor New York in aspects, because New York doesn't mind playing a game where they don't have to shoot a lot of goals.
Yeah.
I mean, if they make a lot of goals, they'll be fine with that.
Yeah, they're okay with it. I think any team will take 8.
That's pretty much how they beat up the Penguins. Was they didn't have to really do much of anything; they just let the Penguins collapse.
Yeah,
I mean, also Crosby going down, but that doesn't.
Yeah, that changed things a little bit, but
even then, I think it wouldn't have saved the series because one player doesn't determine an outcome. Unless you're Connor McDavid, then you basically carry that entire Oilers team.
Yeah, as I say, there are exceptions to that rule.
That's why I make an exception to that, because with other teams, it's a team effort. But with Edmonton, it's basically Connor McDavid saving that team.
That is what happens there. But moving on to college softball.
It's all lined up.
It is all lined up. The 8 teams will meet in Oklahoma City.
Chaos side.
Yeah, we got 2 sides. We have the ranked teams plus Texas, and we have whatever happened in bracket 2.
2 ranked teams.
Yes, but starting with what happened, Oklahoma did what Oklahoma does, getting 8-0 and 7-1 wins over UCF. Still no Jordy Ball, but OU just rolled.
It's like that game for most part with that region super was game 1. Obviously, OU just pretty much clapped them early, but took a bit for OU to get going. But then they finally started hammering the starting and relief pitcher.
Yes,
it was like there's just nothing UCF could have done. Their batting wasn't really like they were hitting the ball. They just couldn't. They hit it right at people.
Yes.
So it's like UCF could hit off the OU's pitchers. They just couldn't do anything with it.
Yeah, they could hit the ball. They couldn't get a hit, though.
It's like when they did, they couldn't advance runners.
Yes.
So that was basically UCF's problem. Otherwise, that game probably relatively close, but OU still wins regardless.
Yeah, so it could
have been the way that game was going.
Yeah, but OU looked very good. Jocelyn Allo in one of her last at-bats she'll ever get in Norman, getting a home run. Yay, poetic. Love to see it. And then moving on to Arizona State and Northwestern, possibly the craziest series of all the super regionals. You have back-to-back extra inning games. Game 1, Northwestern gets a rally to take it to the extras. We go all the way to 11 innings before Northwestern gets a 4-3 win to stun Arizona State. In the next game, the same thing happens. Arizona State has Northwestern down to their last out. They score again. We go to extras again. But Arizona State gets 3 runs in the top of the 8th. They win that one 7-4. We go to Game 3, which was for some reason played at 8:30 on ESPNU. I don't understand why you had an ESPN slot and they chose not to use it. I will never understand that, but I don't make TV decisions.
ESPN.
But Northwestern getting an 8-6 win. Arizona State was up 5-0 at the end of the third.
Yep.
Northwestern rolls all the way back to get that win. They will take on Oklahoma. Game 1 in OKC for both of those teams. Looking at UCLA doing what they do, like I kind of thought we both thought they would. Duke gave them a bit of a challenge in Game 1. UCLA able to roll and rally, get a 3-2 win.
Duke's best chance was Game 1 to at least save themselves, maybe to go into Game 3, and Duke just didn't get the opportunities.
No.
And UCLA took the opportunity to win that game and pretty much was already up and ready to win Game 2.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much just how it was. If Duke didn't take game 1, UCLA was going to finish them off.
Yes. And I mean, that's exactly what UCLA
That was pretty much
did.
what I was when I obviously I predict Duke was going to go to 3 with them, but UCLA would still win it.
Yeah.
But mainly I was relying on that Duke would at least take game 1.
Yeah.
But they didn't. So
that's the one thing about UCLA. UCLA at home is a very not a tricky team because you know what's going to happen. It's just when is it going to happen?
Yep.
And that's what UCLA was able to do, get that rally in the bottom of the 6th to get a 3-2 win, and then just absolutely blast the Blue Devils 8-2 in Game 2.
Yep.
So UCLA, for the 31st time, going to the Women's College World Series. And then Arkansas and Texas. This was a swing of a series where Arkansas comes out at Game 1 7-1.
Arkansas
absolutely obliterates Texas.
Killed Texas, and it was like, wow. And just the way the rest of the series turned out.
And then Texas responds by getting a 3-1 win the next day, and then finishing Arkansas off, shutting down the second-best offense in America 3-0.
So happens,
and Texas goes for the 6th time ever to the World Series. They'll play UCLA in Game 1 there for those teams. And also, fun controversy to talk about with this regional or super regional. Apparently, Texas did not get any championship gear for winning. The NCAA just didn't send it. Everyone else got hats and like a little T-shirt and everything. Texas just got nothing.
So Texas was predicted not to even. So even the NCAA didn't think they were going to win.
Allegedly, Arkansas wouldn't have got anything either. The NCAA just didn't send.
They didn't send anything
because they're not team affiliate. They're just basic hats that have the NCAA logo on them and say OKC Bound 2022. They're not even team affiliate. It would have happened regardless. But it's even funnier that it happened to Texas because it's like, of course that happened to them. Everything weird happened in that super regional. And
this one was
and then
insane.
even more oddities. Virginia Tech gets a 6-0 win in a game that lasted 2 whole days because of rain, where I know I talked about this on our video that you can click on in the link in the chat there. But Virginia Tech was up 6-0 in the 6th inning. The game gets delayed, and they decide to move it to a 10 a.m. start Eastern time the next day. So now you got to restart your entire game to play 1 inning or 2 innings, depending on which side you were. And then you've got to get ready to play Game 2. So Virginia Tech and Florida just both kind of existed out there on the field for an inning or two. Let this game be over with. Let's get Game 2 going. And Florida was ready for it. Then again, when Virginia Tech's starting pitcher gets called for like 6 illegal pitches or something like that, you get a bunch of errors going on. Not going to be a winning recipe. Florida takes advantage with a 7-2 win. And then Game 3, Florida just obliterated them.
Yeah, I was
12-0 run rule.
I was in Liberal with some family relatives that live out there. I was just like kind of watching that game in the back. I'm like, oh my God, Florida killing them. Like Florida was up 10-0 when we left the restaurant. It was like, holy cow.
Yeah, it was one I did not expect it because I was like,
Virginia
okay.
Tech's number 3 and was doing really, really good.
Yes.
The fact that Florida just basically was like, no, you don't get to, was just astonishing.
Yeah, it was one of those I really did not expect to see happen. I mean, I thought Florida would be competitive with them. I thought it would go to a Game 3, but I didn't think this is how it would end. I thought Virginia Tech would maybe run rule Florida, but Florida's pitching staff really stepping up.
I mean, Florida basically, out of those last 2 games, outscored Virginia Tech 19-2.
Yes.
At least let me finish that, man.
No. I will
Listen here. Listen here.
We can both do basic math, I hope. If we can't, then that's a problem.
Yeah, but I'm about to do that, and then you're just like, no, I'm taking it away from you.
But Oregon State and Stanford, here's some people that I hope can do basic math. Stanford and Oregon State, Pac-12 schools.
No scoring.
No scoring whatsoever. You know, you got to love a series where you get 6 whole runs in your entire super regional. I think one of these games actually ended under 2 hours because Stanford had an inning where they threw 4 pitches, and that was it. There were, I believe, Game 1, each pitcher threw a combined 20 pitches in their first 3 innings, and it was 0-0, and it was just like, is this how softball used to be played? Is this what happened in the 1980s? I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows?
Maybe. Stanford and Oregon State, both defensive teams. Oregon State has a bit more firepower to them, and it showed in this series. Oregon State won the regular season series. I thought Stanford would maybe be able to turn it up a bit, but no. 3-1 and 2-0. Oregon State gets the Super. So for the first time since 2006, Oregon State is going to OKC. And then Oklahoma State and Clemson, I talked about.
The first team to make it.
Yeah, the first team to make it. Oklahoma State getting a 2-0 win over Clemson on Thursday night and a 5-1 win over Clemson on Friday night. Oklahoma State being able to be the first team to make it, the quickest super regional to get done. And Oklahoma State for the third year in a row, or third season technically, I guess.
It's the third season in a row.
Yeah, third year season, same thing.
Same thing.
Oklahoma State makes it, and Kenny Gajewski locks up a extension through 2027. So Oklahoma State looking to continue their softball success in the Big 12 and in the NCAA in general. They make another trip to OKC. And finally, Mississippi State and Arizona. Arizona's playing their best softball of the year. You never just sneak in as the last team and go 5-0. Arizona did.
Yep.
Beating Mississippi State 3-2 in extras in Game 1, a sellout crowd at Nunes Park. Mississippi State was ready for this. This was their biggest game in softball history. They had all this momentum coming into it. First time ever making the Supers. First time ever hosting it. They had a standing room only seating they had to bring in. They doubled their seating capacity. And Arizona just walks in there like they own the place and gets a 3-2 win in extras and then hammers them 7-1 in Game 2.
Oh, no, that was Mississippi State's. Like, both teams were riding off momentum because they weren't even supposed to make it.
Yeah, both were off big regional upsets.
So it's like, and Arizona just had more momentum.
Yeah, Arizona was able to make the better plays. Their pitching is the best it's been all year, which is really, I mean, of course, you want it to be your best when you get to the postseason. But Arizona makes it again. They're starting to look like the Arizona of old, playing good defense, good pitching, good nearly everything right now. So that brings us to the World Series bracket. It'll start Thursday at 11 a.m., UCLA and Texas, and then at 1:30, Oklahoma and Northwestern. At 6 o'clock Thursday night, Florida will take on Oregon State, and at 8:30, Oklahoma State will play Arizona.
I just like how there's such a big gap in between.
Well, we got to do that so you don't get – I mean, do you want to play at 3 o'clock in the middle of June?
No, I just say there's such a huge gap.
I know. I think that's the reason for it, so you get a morning and a night, and you avoid the it feels like 1:15 out here. I love it.
OU's going to get that regardless.
OU's going to – I mean –
OU and Northwestern are going to deal with that.
Yeah, OU and Northwestern would deal with that a little bit, but that's a advantage Oklahoma, I would think. I don't think Chicagoans are used to 95 on a normal day and all that humidity.
It can happen. I've been to Chicago.
I bet it can. Bad. I bet it can happen.
It just depends on what side of the city you're on.
Yeah, I don't think they're built for it though. But it will be fun to see, and also fun programming note: ABC for the first time ever going to get a few Women's College World Series games, so that'll be neat to see as well. We will be on the air Thursday after the UCLA, Texas, Oklahoma, Northwestern games, so we'll wrap those up on the Thursday show. But, of course, it is time to finally predict this. We've gotten it all the way down to 8. I really don't understand half the things that have happened in this World Series, but you know what? That's what makes it fun.
Well, and we'll just predict the first games.
Yeah, so we're just
because we don't know.
I'm calling.
I'm just going to get out of the way. OU's going to go to beat Northwestern. I think Northwestern's going to probably give OU hitting some problems.
Yeah, it'll be a more defensive game, I think.
Though I think going down to the wire, unless OU's hitting comes alive, which it can. We've seen it happen several times.
It usually does.
Just give it some time. OU should win that game. Though they don't run rule Northwestern, but then they'll surprise me and actually do it. Then UCLA will beat Texas.
More than likely that should happen.
I think Texas will obviously – they basically had to fight and claw their way to get here.
Yes.
And because they weren't even supposed to be here at all.
No.
But because they had to upset Washington and then they had to upset Arkansas.
Yes.
So I think I think Texas will once again have to claw their way to even try to give themselves a chance to advance to the World Series. I think they're probably the third best team in that side.
Yeah.
As great as Northwestern has played most of the year, I think Texas has been playing better softball. That said, baseball.
Yeah. They probably are playing better baseball too. I mean, the Big Ten didn't have a lot of success.
But so that's for those games, and you pretty much predicted the same outcomes for those.
Yeah, I mean, I've got UCLA beating Texas. I think this one, I really wouldn't be surprised if Texas won, just with everything they have going their way. The whole nobody believes in us to get here, and we're still coming. UCLA is used to being here, but they always have one weird game when they get here where they look really bad for 5 innings and then turn it on. And if you do that too late, this Texas team can pounce on you and take advantage.
Yeah.
I think UCLA will win, but I think it'll be closer than people think. Oklahoma, Northwestern, like you said, I don't think OU run rules Northwestern, but I do think Oklahoma, about that 4th, 5th inning, will start to pull away.
Well, I try at least do what they can. Like, though I don't, but obviously, never count out any team in the World Series.
Yeah, you can never count out any team. I mean, we had James Madison last year.
Yep.
Prove that for everybody.
The team that came out of nowhere.
Yes, and then for the bracket number 2, Florida, Oregon State. I think Florida gets the win here. They've figured out their pitching woes a little bit. Oregon State will make it a more defensive game. That's how they like to play. Florida has no problem doing that. They can play no matter what style you want. I think Florida gets the win in that one. And then Arizona, Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State gets the win. Arizona, don't be surprised if they jump out early and Oklahoma State slowly but surely comes back over the course of the game. But I think we're going to get Florida, Oklahoma State for the June 4th, 6 o'clock game, and UCLA, Oklahoma, this would be the 3rd straight year UCLA and OU have met in the Women's College World Series. It'll be a rematch of a game earlier this year. So I'm excited to see all that.
Yeah, I also believe Florida will pretty much beat up Oregon State, and then OSU has a tough one with Arizona because Arizona's playing really good right now.
Yeah.
And obviously OSU's pitching is going to mostly carry them to play Florida.
Yeah.
Then again, OSU could probably go off on them. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know.
It's the College World Series. I mean, it's for softball's just crazy.
Yes, it is. It is a very fun sport to watch, though. And also, just some other news to talk about. This happened earlier today. I wanted to talk about this. Rogers State, Oklahoma team, winning the 2022 Division II softball title. Proud to see the Hillcats representing our state well. Oklahoma is a softball state. I will let you know that. Not only did OU and OSU make the D1 World Series, Rogers State wins the D2 title, and Oklahoma City and USAO are both in the NAIA World Series. So the only one we don't have is NCAA D3 because we don't have any D3 teams in Oklahoma.
It's either your we only have NAIA, and then we pretty much just skip D3.
So yes, California, no longer softball state. Oklahoma, the softball state. That is how this works. But moving on to the baseball side of things, college baseball championship tournaments underway last week. That is all said and done. It is time for the national tournament to begin on Friday. A lot of regionals, a lot of chaos abound, a lot of upsets probably going to happen. We're going to talk about this more on the Thursday show with all this. We'll predict everything then. But I want to talk about the major snub that a lot of people really didn't understand. That's NC State not even making the tournament. This is a projected 3 seed, was in the World Series last year, was an amazing team last year, had a great run in the ACC tournament. As you can see, scrolling through the entire bracket, North Carolina State does not pop up anywhere. I mean, their athletic director had a statement about it. Everybody was upset about it. NC State was projected in by nearly every single person.
What was their RPI?
I don't remember what their RPI was, but I know they were one of the last teams in, and they made it to the ACC championship game, which usually means something.
You can probably hit against them. They didn't play very good on their away record because they went 11-10.
Yeah,
but it's like.
But when you're playing in the ACC, which has been established as the second best conference this year.
Yeah, it's.
I really don't understand that.
It's like I mean, they didn't play as great out the gate. Yeah, but obviously they slowly played better ball. But it was just that's one of the ones I don't get because their record. It's like some of these teams that are at least sneaking as a 4 seed somewhere. But instead, no, they get snubbed.
Yeah.
It's like some of these teams, their records were probably not as good as theirs.
Yeah, and then the another big one was Notre Dame, who had an RPI of 14, did not get a host. Instead, they get to be the 2 seed in the Georgia Southern Regional. And my goodness, there were a lot of unhappy people about that, and I completely understand a lot of Division I baseball writers didn't understand that. This was a big what in the world is going on? How did Notre Dame not get a host? They've been playing amazing all year.
This has happened with many. This will always be a problem every year. You have teams that have great RPIs, but either their records aren't as good or they just get snubbed for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't understand why they didn't get in. Another one was Oklahoma. Some people did think Oklahoma deserved to get a host. They get sent to Gainesville instead to take on Florida. I would have liked to seen Oklahoma get a host. I understand why they didn't. I think, though, this is why you don't release the host sites the day of the championship games. You just do it all on that selection show Monday. I don't understand why the NCAA felt they had to come out that night while the Big 12 tournament was still going on.
Well, there was also another tournament right after.
Yeah, and then the Pac-12 hadn't even started yet, and the Big 10 was just finishing. And it was just like, oh, by the way, here's all the host seats. Oh, you played for nothing. It was like, oh, great.
I think even then, they still probably wouldn't have even gotten a regional.
I don't know. They would have had an RPI of 19, and that would have been a lot better than the RPI they had of 24 going into the day. That would have changed things enough that maybe they could have snuck in over somebody.
I think they still get stuck as a 2 seed going somewhere.
Maybe, but
I just don't, because the way they play, way their overall body of record was, it wasn't necessarily the best. Plus, obviously, really close to the end of the season, getting blown out 18-0 by Wichita State. That doesn't look good. Though, obviously, before the show, you said they rested most of their better players. That's still not an excuse for why you get beat up by a really bad Wichita State team.
Well, the thing was they beat Wichita State. The OU has a lot of quality wins and then a lot of really dumb losses.
And those dumb losses were, I think, took a heavy toll.
Yes, but I think the argument I would make is a lot of that happened early in the year, and you could see the team progressed over time and got better, and that you could see when you beat TCU, when you beat Texas Tech, when you split with Texas, when you split with Oklahoma State, when you do all these great things they were able to do, you win your Final 5 series, you win the Big 12 tournament, which is a thing Oklahoma has always struggled in. There's a lot of reasons I think OU could have gotten a regional and probably did deserve it over, say, a Georgia Southern or a Maryland who had a strength of schedule of 107. Oklahoma had a better strength of schedule than either.
Why is the strength of schedule team with 107 or seed? That makes no sense.
Yeah, for a 15 seed, I don't know.
Vanderbilt has a better strength of schedule.
I mean, Wake Forest has an RPI of 6 and one of the tougher strength of schedules, but they get placed at a 2 seed there in College Park. The NCAA selection committee makes no sense. We should not make RPI the one end-all, be-all determining factor. You got to use the eye test at some point. That is my main spiel about this.
You got to use a mix of both.
You got to use a lot of things, and you not solely rely on one.
I can understand the issues with that because in basketball, because we also talked about this OSU in 2017. It was Mike Boynton's first year, I believe.
Yeah.
They got instead of making the NCAA tournament, they got shafted because supposedly their non-con wasn't good enough. Despite the fact they beat several top 15 teams, top 20 that are in the Big 12 because Big 12 is the best basketball conference. Fight me on that one. They swept Kansas.
Yeah.
They beat Baylor one time. They beat Baylor. Mm-hmm. They defeated OU twice out of 3 times. Mm-hmm. And yet OU still managed to get in, despite the fact they lost 11 in a row and lost to some really bad teams despite Trae Young's efforts to try what they can.
I mean, I wouldn't say anyone in the Big 12 was bad that year. I mean, the only loss I could think of that was really brutal that I knew was like, was the K-State loss at Manhattan. I knew that one was going to be
three of the bottom teams that, like, TCU wasn't playing good yet. K-State was not as great as they used to be. You had some, like, overall, OU was not playing good at all. They were losing to teams get really badly that they shouldn't have lost.
No, they were losing games. It was a...
But the thing is, they were still given an 8 seed, despite the fact it's like they played more like an 11 or 12.
All I can say is that's what happens when you had the Trae Young effect, I guess. That's the only reason I still...
It's like, I'm not saying, like, the thing is that my issue wasn't that OU made the tournament. It was OSU did not make it, despite the fact OSU played much better. Obviously, this argument runs with anything that's pretty much not football.
Yeah.
If you don't play, if it's not football, you run into this problem. Like, I can understand why people are angry, but I don't feel as much sympathy for a lot of teams. I can I can understand the arguments and I can agree with people on it, but I'm not going to feel as bad, mainly because, like, I'm used to it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to really care.
Well, I think the thing for Oklahoma is it happened in basketball this year, and then it happened in baseball, where it's just like being right there on the edge of something really good happening or something really bad happening, and it falling 0 for 2 against you now is one of those just like, this is Oklahoma. This does not happen to us.
But I still think with OU and for baseball, I still think they got a better regional to deal with than the others.
They did. I mean, Liberty's...
I won't say that this is like inherently the worst thing that could happen.
No, there's definitely a lot of worse places OU could have been stuck. Most projections had him going to Texas A&M.
Worst place you could have gone was go to the Oregon State one, because then you have to face Oregon State.
Yeah, I mean, you get put with Oregon State and San Diego and New Mexico State. That would not have been a fun regional. But Oklahoma, if they do this, this is a fun nugget. 4 straight tournament appearances in a row, dating all the way back to 2011. OU has always gone to an ACC team for regional. It's the first time since OU went to TCU in 2011, OU does not go to an ACC team for a regional. But if they win, Virginia Tech's right there, and that would be a trip to Blacksburg. You know where OU always goes for a super regional? Virginia. Just the state of Virginia. It is always going to happen. 2010, where did OU go? Virginia. 2012, where did OU go? Virginia. 2013, where did they go? Virginia. Where does OU always go? Virginia.
So
it is hilarious.
Tech, TCU, Texas, Oklahoma State.
Yes.
Just those teams.
Yeah, West Virginia did not make the cut.
Yeah, well, yeah, because they didn't play. They were like almost dead last.
They were 6th.
It felt like they were almost dead. The thing is, we have barely any teams in the Big 12.
We have
9 teams.
We have 9 amazing teams. Don't look at Baylor firing their head coach today.
Don't look at Kansas either.
Hey, their coach retired though.
But
so
don't look at
good
them.
for him. I mean, you had 20 years and you made a few championship games. Never forget Kansas beat Texas in baseball too. It's hilarious.
Well, it's like Kansas during his tenure, Kansas had years where they were pretty good.
They did.
Obviously, they made some region. They never got past any more than a regional, but still is like they still were a good team.
Yeah, but my favorite was 2018, where they were an 8 seed and they beat number 1 Texas day 1.
That was hilarious.
It was just like, because OU was the 4 seed, I was just like, did we just get handed a gift? That doesn't happen here. This is amazing. But then we lost to Baylor, and it was like, oh, yay. I don't like this anymore.
But obviously, we'll be back here.
But we'll be back here Thursday to recap college baseball, a little bit more, talk about every regional in depth, predict who we think is going to the super regionals. It has been a fun show as always. Like I said earlier in the show, don't forget to give us a follow here on Twitch. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, whether that be NWTV7 or the guys who stare at stats. Give us a follow on NWTV7 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, wherever your social media is. Just search for NWTV7, and we will be there. For Connor Gray, I'm Cade Kennedy, and have a wonderful time, everybody.